listening to the length, how long the fan runs is so important.
Okay.
Because once the sail switch and limit switch do activate, the next step is it goes to ignite. You get spark, you get gas, you have 3 times for ignition. Once we get a good limit switch, once we get a good sail switch, the fan is on, then the blower should come on, and about 15 seconds into this, you should hear the spark, and you should hear the clunk of the gas valve, and you should smell gas.
Why is that? Why can you smell gas?
Hopefully you don't smell the gas. Hopefully you just smell the exhaust if we get ignition.
Okay.
Obviously we just want into ignition.
What if you only smell gas? It's a strong gas odor, but it's not hot. What happens?
Well, if you get a trial for ignition and it doesn't ignite, you're going to smell gas.
So it's actually, the solenoids are open and that gas is going into the chamber. It's just not lighting.
That's right. You can have a bad igniter. You can have a bad board cause it not to spark. You can have a bad mixture between the gas and the spark at the burner itself. Orifices can be drilled wrong. You have burrs in them, egg shape. There's all sorts of things that can happen. Now, if I were to turn this off.
So you're turning the gas off?
Yep. You can tell, no more gas. Therefore, it's still bloody hot, but obviously we've lost our flame. So it's going to go through a cool down mode. The whole process can take 3 to 5 minutes.
If there's no fire in the burner, does it understand that?
Yes, basically the spark probe, which comes out here through here and mounts right up into there, as you can see on that one. Basically it sparks and it's the flame sense. So if it doesn't sense flame, it's basically not going to keep the fire on. A flame sense is basically the igniter getting hot, changing resistance. The board reads that, and the board says, okay, you've done it right, so I'm keeping you on. If it doesn't change resistance correctly, the board says, nope, I'm turning off.
If it's not reading that resistance, then there's no fire.
That's right. Even if it tries to light and does, you might get 7 seconds of fire, but if it doesn't sense the flame, it's just going to turn off the gas valve. Let's say you forget to turn your gas bottle on in your RV.
That happens.
It does. But you still have all that gas. It's in the system.
Like in the hose?
In the hoses. And it'll light, it'll fire, it'll sense the flames there, and then as soon as the gas burns off, the burner turns off, and poof, now it's in lockout mode.
Tell me a little bit about lockout mode. I think that's a safety feature too. Yep. It recognizes there's no gas, but potentially fire or potentially spark. So it says, hey, that's not safe, so we'll lock it out.
It'll be a 3-try thing.
Okay.
Most of the time, but like I said, if you get a partial flame sense, if it lights and then you lose the fire,
yeah,
it'll just lock out automatically. And at that point in time, to reset it, you either do a hard reset, you can pull the fuse out, put it back in, or you can do, like I said, with the thermostat, turn the thermostat off, turn it back on, turn the thermostat off, turn it back on again.
What if you have a bad burner? What kind of symptoms would you see if the burner itself is bad?
Usually a non-ignition issue. You can get to the burners and look at them, but you really can't see it in process with it firing. The burner's right underneath that big old plate there. Easy way to find out if you actually know you have spark is you simply unplug this igniter wire right from here and grab yourself a nice long needle nose and hold it right there and turn on the switch. And
so get it close to the contact and you can see the spark there, and then you know that it's working?
Then you know you got spark out of the board anyway. We don't always know that we have spark out of the burner unless we get to the point where you have the burner exposed. And you can get to that pretty simply. As you can see, you have the one over here.
What commonly goes wrong with the burner? Is it clogged or?
Those are the things, especially the older it is, the more susceptible to that stuff. Obviously spider webs, dirt daubers, corrosion, sooting.
Yeah, I've heard that. So if you see soot near the exhaust, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, what happens is if you have a bad flame, then you're gonna get a sooty exhaust, just like an old 70s car.
A bad flame, what does that look like?
Basically, like I said, it's difficult to see.
Yeah.
but you can figure that out pretty quickly by looking at the burner, looking at what kind of exhaust you're coming out. Honestly, majority of the time what we run into is dirt daubers. Dirt daubers will mess with that airflow, mess with that gas-air mixture, and really cause it to sit up.
So dirt daubers, how do you prevent that? How do you clean it?
Well, you'll see a lot of aftermarket stuff out there, little screens that go over the exhaust. We can't recommend them, especially while the furnace is actually operating, because again, what they'll do is it slows down the airflow and messes with the gas-air mixture. So it's one of those things that we don't recommend. Cleaning these, a lot of times it's a matter of just getting it to where we're at right here, getting this area off, cleaning up the burner, cleaning up the exhaust, but they can get so sooted up that it's almost impossible to clean them out. I've been down that road where you clean them out, you clean out the burner, everything looks good, but you just got a bunch of gunk in here
That you can't see.
that you can't see, that you can't get out. You blow them out with air if you can. Gas-air mixtures are important to furnaces. If it's not right, if the orifice isn't right, if the burner has got holes in it, or if it's starting to get corroded, or if it's got soot on it, it'll give you spark, it'll give you gas, but you might not get fire.
So I pulled out the burner and the igniter, and they are screwed together there. So you really can't mess that up because there's two screws and it lines that up. But walk me through what happens when this igniter is not close enough to within that 1/8 or 1/8 of an inch. Why is that important?
Well, first of all, we do call this a preset.
Okay.
We don't want people to adjust it. What happens is if your gas isn't porting through and coming into the diverters here properly, then the gas might push past the spark. In other words, you might actually have gas coming out here, but not here where the spark is.
Got it.
Now, obviously, we want to have spark off that tip of that probe. If you don't have spark off that, and you have spark at the board, then we have bad igniter. Basically, the spark has to be right where the gas is concentrated.